Attention Ward's customers. These are the final moments of this location's store closing sale. 95% off all remaining merchandise. We're sorry to leave you. Please make your way to the nearest checkout terminal. The largest retail closure at the time, Montgomery Ward ceased operations and disappeared from the retail world. How did the once triumphant catalog retailer become America's first large-scale retail tragedy? The story of this once great retailer starts in August of 1872. Aaron Montgomery Ward saw that agricultural America had a need for a way to have goods delivered to their door. He invented the concept of the mail-order catalog, starting it as a single sheet of goods. These catalogs grew to over 500 pages of goods, from farming supplies and home improvement to whole homes and clothing. If you could name it, a Montgomery Ward catalog would have it. According to History and Lessons of a Field Company author David Chulock, a private investor who studied the company, Montgomery Ward was also the first company to, quote, use the slogan "Satisfaction Guaranteed or Your Money Back," end quote. The use of a satisfaction guarantee would help cement the Montgomery Ward name as a reliable company who customers would come to know and love before their largest competitor, Sears Roebuck and Company, would start business. In 1926, the first brick-and-mortar Montgomery Ward retail store opened in Plymouth, Indiana. The company expanded rapidly, and in 4 years grew to 556 stores nationwide. However, sales started to decline as America entered the Great Depression in 1929. Sewell Avery came to help the company out of a spiral of mounting losses, and had some success doing so. He would have the U.S. government, as well as worker unions, against him. Both groups staged interventions against Avery, and Franklin Roosevelt would cease operations within Montgomery Ward on December 27, 1944. This seizure was due to Avery refusing to comply with terms of 3 bargaining agreements with the United Retail, Wholesale, and Department Stores Union. In the 1950s, Montgomery Ward started to fall behind in expanding retail operations. The company was hoarding cash in fear of a national economic downfall, similar to the Great Depression. As a result of the cash hoarding, Ward's would not act fast to expand operations into buildings that would become a shining symbol of Americana, the shopping mall. Ward's greatest competitor, Sears, would expand rapidly, moving into mall locations. According to an article from the New York Times, it would later be stated that Ward eventually caught on and tried to move to the suburbs too, but by then, Sears was already well ensconced in important malls in very profitable locations at intersections of the emerging interstate highway system. This is important to note because Ward's cash hoarding was grounded in well-intentions, but the second Great Depression that company executives were expecting never happened. By the time these executives realized their problematic foresight, they lost out on locations where they'd be able to make the most money. Going into the 1960s, after already losing prime retail locations to Sears, Montgomery Ward would be faced with even more competition. Discount stores such as Target, Walmart, and Kmart attracted middle-class shoppers, the largest economic demographic in the country. Originally, that middle-class demographic was what Montgomery Ward intended to serve. Discount stores were able to sell similar products at cheaper prices than traditional big-box stores, which drove middle-class shoppers away from Montgomery Ward. Losses began to mount over the years once more as Montgomery Ward would lose relevance in the public eye. They'd failed to successfully rebrand themselves and also failed to renovate outdated storefronts. In 1997, Ward's would enter their first round of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. As a result, they shedded debt and attempted to rebrand again, borrowing money from their parent company, GE Capital, a subsidiary of General Electric, to do so. The tagline, "Things are changing at Montgomery Ward," became the company's slogan during and after the rebrand attempt. An article from the New York Times, written right after Montgomery Ward announced the full shutdown of the company, states that General Electric brought in new management and invested heavily in modernizing the stores, but nothing seemed to pump up sales or profits. The rebrand would come too late, and on December 28, 2000, Montgomery Ward announced that they would cease all retail operations and enter a second round of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Former Ward's chairman and CEO Roger Goodue says in a statement about the closure that overall weak holiday sales and a very difficult retail environment simply did not permit us to complete the turnaround that might have been possible in an otherwise thriving economy. It took Ward's too long to realize that their company needed to evolve, and thus were left far behind compared to other stores who had started improving their businesses long before Ward's did. In 2001, all remaining Ward stores were closed, marking the end of a 128-year era. The full-scale closure of Ward's was tragic for malls in smaller suburban areas. These malls, known in the business world as Class C malls, relied on anchor stores like Ward's to drive foot traffic into the mall. Without Montgomery Ward, these malls couldn't attract enough customers to remain truly economically viable. The malls where Ward's was more common were also located in less affluent towns that normally didn't attract tourists, and couldn't be supported by the smaller surrounding communities themselves. These malls were built in these smaller suburban areas for a variety of different reasons, namely to either attempt to attract tourism or to respond to an original skyrocketing population in the surrounding area. As a result, these malls would struggle to fill the empty retail space and see decreases in sales. Once a Class C mall loses an anchor, there's soon to follow closures of interior mall tenants. These closures normally continue to increase due to the poor sales within the mall, and eventually the mall is led to its demise. Once the mall closes entirely, the town in which it operated in is left without a major source of tax revenue, and a building that is either immediately demolished or abandoned and left to rot. Other retailers who didn't learn from the demise of Montgomery Ward are left with seeing themselves in a similar situation. An example of a retailer like this is one of Ward's former competitors, Sears. Both Sears and Montgomery Ward became complacent with how their companies were being run and saw no need for further innovation. This complacency with how these companies were being run led to a loss of brand identity. This quote from a Washington Post article that was written when Ward's announced their full liquidation can be applied to both companies. The aforementioned complacency and loss of brand identity comes from the lack of attention management gave to the changing American market. In short, being complacent only led both companies to their demise. A lack of innovation will not lead to success in any part of the human lifestyle, as change is an inevitable part of life.